Hey guys, this is Connie. So you probably heard the Disney version of Cinderella or Little Mermaid, and they always ended like they live happily ever after. Have you heard the original story of Cinderella or many other fairy tales? Let me just say this, the original version of Cinderella or many other fairy tales may shock you, and they never end with happily ever after. Connie presents Top 10 Fairy Tale Dark Origins. Number 10. The Dark Origin of Cinderella. The Disney version of Cinderella tells the story of a young girl who is mistreated by her wicked stepmother, but eventually gets her revenge when she marries the handsome prince. But the original fairy tale is very different. It involves some nasty blood. In the original tale, Cinderella sneaks off to the ball and falls in love with the prince, just like the Disney version. The prince then comes looking for Cinderella and is introduced to her evil stepsisters. At this point, the two stories go into totally different paths. The evil stepsisters can fit into Cinderella's glass slipper, so instead of admitting that the shoes isn't theirs, one of them actually cut off their toe to fit in the shoes, and the other cut off their heels. The prince realizes that these two girls aren't his princess when he sees that the shoe is filled with blood. Finally, the prince finds Cinderella, and the two rise off to the sunset together. For Cinderella's two evil stepsisters, they cannot walk no more. I mean, you got to admire Cinderella's stepsisters. They actually cut off their toes and heels just to fit into a shoes. For my brother, this is like a totally different story. When his shoes doesn't fit, he just simply throw it away. Man, that's wasteful. You can make money off those old shoes. How? Well, you can sell them on eBay. Number 9. The Dark Origin of Little Mermaid. Everyone knows the story of Little Mermaid. She sells her voice for a pair of legs and flap around for a bit, and she wins the prince's heart. In Christine Anderson's original tale, the Little Mermaid had to trade a tongue for a pair of legs, and part of the deal is that every step she takes is nearly unbearable. It's like walking on sharp swords. Hoping to win the prince's heart, the Little Mermaid dances for him, even though it is extremely painful, and the prince claps along, but eventually he decided to marry another lady. The mermaid's sister sells their hair to bring a dagger to her and told her to kill the prince and let his blood drip into her feet, which will become fins again. She sneaks up upon him, but can't bring herself to do it, so she dies in the water. If I was that Little Mermaid, I would sneak upon that prince and grab the knife and yell, "This is Little Mermaid!" Number 8. The Dark Origin of Red Riding Hood. The friendly version of this tale that most of us are familiar with ends with Riding Hood being saved by the woodsman who killed the wicked wolf. But in fact, the original version are a lot darker, and it does not end very nicely. In the original version, the little girl is a well-bred young lady who is giving false instructions by the wolf when she asks the way to her grandmother's house. Foolishly, Red Riding Hood took the advice of the wolf and ends up being eaten. And the story ends here. There is no woodsman, no grandmother, just a fat wolf and a dead Red Riding Hood. The moral of this story is to not take any advice from the strangers. So the original version of Red Riding Hood teaches us to not take any advice from the strangers, huh? Well, I'm gonna listen to this advice and not do any homework or tests on the first day of college, because the teachers are still strangers to me. And I learned from the original Red Riding Hood story, you don't take any advice or you'll be eaten by the teachers. Number 7. The Dark Origin of Tangle. The Disney version of Tangle tells the story of a white-eyed, innocent girl who discovers a whole new world. She never knew this world existed. Even though the original Tangle have a happy ending, some twisted thing happens before you can get to the happily ever after. In the original version, the prince gets Rapunzel pregnant out of wedlock. When the evil sorcerer discovers this, she cuts off Rapunzel's hair and chases her into the wilderness. When the prince saw out to see Rapunzel, the evil sorcerer tricked him into the tower by dangling Rapunzel's cut off hair. And the sad part is, when the prince discovers that Rapunzel is gone, he jumps out of the tower window and ends up blinding himself with the thorns below. The prince wandered around looking for his love, while Rapunzel gives birth to twins. Eventually, the prince finds Rapunzel when he hears her beautiful voice. Rapunzel restored the prince's sight with her tear, and the two live happily ever after. Rapunzel can use her tears to restore the prince's sight. Well, I'm gonna use my tear to restore this. Let me see if I can restore this homework, okay? Okay, now I'm gonna try to restore it with my tear. The best way to cry is to think of Titanic. Oh crap. Oh crap, it doesn't work. And my math homework is broke. Number 6. The Dark Origin of Hercules. The original Greek tale about Hercules is absolutely nothing like the Disney version. In the original story, Theseus rapes Hercules' mother, Alcmene, and impregnates her with Hercules. Hercules grows up and becomes a great warrior. He then ends up marrying the beautiful prince of Magaria. The happy couple have 2 children together, but unfortunately, in a fit of rage, Hercules killed both of them. After this, Hercules entered into a number of marriages and is unfaithful to all his wives. His 4th wife, Dandaria, thinks that Hercules is cheating on her, so she made a poison and put it on Hercules' clothes. When he wore it, his skin rips off, exposing bones. Seeing this, Dandaria hangs herself. Hercules tried to burn himself alive, but his immortal self ends up surviving the fire, and he is unable to return to Olympus as an immortal. Number 5. The Dark Origin of Aladdin. We know Aladdin as a tale of poor street merchant who wins the heart of a beautiful princess. In the 3rd installment of Aladdin, Aladdin and Jasmine are finally getting hitched when we are introduced to the character of Cassian, Aladdin's long-lost father. In the original story, Cassian is actually Aladdin's brother. Cassian gets a little too greedy and gets trapped in a cave where he is trying to steal gold. When he is found by the thieves, he is promptly killed. Aladdin discovers pieces of his brother's body and asks a slave girl to sew them together so it will look like Cassian died of natural cause. The thieves get really angry that Aladdin took their dismembered corpse and go to where he lived for revenge. Luckily, the slave girl outsmarted them and killed them by pouring boiling water on 2 and stabbing the other one to death. So I guess you can say there is a happy ending. Number 4. The Dark Origin of Hansel and Gretel. Popular version of Hansel and Gretel goes like this. We hear 2 little children who become lost in the forest, eventually finding their way to a gingerbread house which belonged to a wicked witch. The children end up enslaved for a time as the witch prepares them for eating. They figure their way out and throw the witch in a fire and escape. The original French version of this tale, called The Lost Children. Instead of a witch, we have a devil. Now, the wicked old devil is tricked by the children, in much the same way as the Hansel and Gretel, but he worked it out and put together a sawhorse to put one of the children on it to bleed. The children pretend not to know how to get on the sawhorse, so the devil wife demonstrates. While she is lying down, the kid slits her throat and escape. So this story basically tells us that when you are in trouble, act dumb. How dumb? Dumber than Patrick.
Ha ha ha! I'm Patrick, and look at my pet rock.
Number 3. The Dark Origin of Pocahontas. The Disney version of Pocahontas tells the story of a native Indian who meets John Smith, falls in love and live happily ever after. Real original story of Pocahontas is not so happy. The real Pocahontas was only 10 years old when she met John Smith, and the two didn't have much of a relationship. It definitely wasn't the true love version that Disney have told us. When she was 17, she was captured by the English and held for a ransom. Her husband, Cockatoo, was killed during this time, and Pocahontas was respectfully raped and ended up getting pregnant. She was able to escape and later marry another man named John Wolfe. In 1615, the couple traveled to England where Pocahontas was presented as a symbol of 10 Virginia savage. After 2 years in England, Pocahontas met her ultimate death from an unknown cause. She was only just 22 years old. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with Disney? They made a 2 totally different versions. My life is just messed up. Number 2. The Dark Origin of Goldilocks. The original tale of Goldilocks has 2 different versions. The classic version goes like this. Goldilocks jumping out of a window and running to safety once the three bears have arrived. In the first version, Goldilocks was killed because the three bears was so mad that their house got messed up. The second version, Goldilocks was way too ugly, so the bear just let her go. So she jumped out the window just like the modern fairy tale, but unfortunately, she broke her neck. Number 1. The Dark Origin of Sleeping Beauty. Everyone knows the Disney version of Cinderella, but the original version will shock you. The original version goes like this. The princess does not prick her finger on a spindle, but rather gets a silver of flax stuck under her fingernail. She falls down, apparently dead, but her father cannot face the idea of losing her, so he lays her body on a bed in one of his estates. The king who raped her is already married. Later, a king out hunting in the woods finds her, and since he cannot wake her up, he decided to rape her while she is unconscious. Then heads home to his own country. Sometime after that, still unconscious, she gave birth to 2 children, and one of them accidentally sucked the splinter out of her finger, so she wake up. So the king decided to kill his original wife and marry Talia. Man, if someone raped me while I was asleep, I will go Kung Fu Panda and hang on her. My story is not gonna be like Sleeping Beauty, it's gonna be like Sleeping Ugly. But if you're a girl and you're pretty, go ahead. Wait, before you exit the video, please let me borrow 20 seconds of your time. So my parents does not support me producing these weird and useless videos. There is many people who grow up wanting to make a living as a teachers, lawyers, or even engineers. But there's very few people that want to make a living as a YouTuber. And here is another fact. Chance of making a living as a YouTube artist, 1 in every 500,000. So right now, I have to prove my parents that YouTube is the right path for me. So please help me out by hitting that subscribe button right below me. It could change a person's life.